Hey everyone, welcome to Fast Forward, the podcast about real conversations, not highlight reels. We explore the people behind the work, how they think, what drives them, and how they grow. Today, I'm joined by Haley Hoover, the founder of Winnie Lu and creator of the Airess drying rack. Haley, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you on. Been an exciting start to our day here, and let's keep it going. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to get to know you, like before Winnie and Lou, kind of what drove you to create the business and the Eris drying rack, and maybe some things that led you to where you are today.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a mom now, but well before I was a mom, I worked in healthcare on the business and sales side. Every time my husband's career would take him somewhere, my career would change. And so I've worked in a lot of different seats in healthcare and started a service-based business as a virtual assistant supporting people in healthcare. But even prior to all of that, I had been a professional nanny for about 11 years. And
Hmm.
so I used basically every baby product that was ever invented on the market in the early 2000s and shortly beyond. And was kind of bummed when I went to have my own children and realized that a lot of those products hadn't changed in 15, 20 years. And so after I got over the fog of being out of the true baby stage, I started to think I like owning a business. I like building a
Hmm.
business. What else can I do? And that kind of sparked Winnie and Lou and the idea for the Airess drying rack.
Right. So break it down in detail, the Eris drying rack and kind of the just the inspiration, but the practical use of what it is.
Sure. Yeah. So it's originally intended for holding an entire day's worth of your baby bottles. Plus, if you're a breastfeeding mom, it also holds your pump parts as well. So when I was in that stage of as a working mom, nursing and pumping while I was at work, I would come home and have the nightly chore of washing my baby's bottles, but all of the racks that I had access to didn't hold all of the bottles for the day. And you could forget about even trying to have a space for all the breast pump parts, which,
Mm.
Jeff, I'm sure you're probably not familiar, but there's a lot of pieces. And so they all need proper airflow. They can't just be sitting in water. And all of the products that exist on the market are made of plastic that get really gross and filmy and moldy really quickly. And because they have so many tight nooks and crannies, they're really hard to clean. So you're spending all of this time cleaning your baby's bottles. You're intentionally giving them a separate space to dry, but then that drying space is just covered in bacteria and mold,
Mm.
and it's kind of defeating the purpose.
Yeah, it's
So
contradictory.
exactly. So, with the Airess, there's plenty of space for all of the bottles. It holds 8 to 10, or excuse me, 8 to 12 baby bottles, depending upon, how thick they are. And then it also holds up to four parts for all of your pump sessions as well.
Mm.
And there's adequate airflow so that areas are not getting like overly moisturized and mold can grow. And then everything is dishwasher safe. So instead of having to soak and scrub, you can just put everything on the top rack of the dishwasher and voila, it's clean.
That's
And
awesome.
beyond the baby stage, I'm out of my baby stage now,
Yeah.
but I still use my Airess every single day in my home. We've gone through sippy cups to lunchbox organizers. Now we're in like the baseball sports water bottles and travel mugs and all of that. But it also gets a lot of use because it holds 10 to 12 wine glasses plus a wine decanter. So it's designed for
Mm.
baby, but it's really built for life.
Yeah, it's also very unique in terms of design. How did you in the early stages of creating the product itself, how were you prototyping this? Like, how did you even, like, start with, like, finding the right materials and building that part of, like, the product, the actual substrate that you're making this product with?
Yeah, so the 3 things that were incredibly important to me was, 1, I wanted to be using materials that were durable and recyclable, so I wanted products that even after you would be done with the product, you could recycle it and it could be melted down and repurposed. That was incredibly important for
Mm,
me. I wanted it to be easy to clean and maintain, so the rack itself is made out of gold-plated stainless steel. Gold
nice.
itself has some natural antimicrobial properties
Oh, I
That's
didn't know
a
that.
helpful feature. Yeah. And then the base of it is food grade silicone. So very safe to have any food products on, but because of the silicone, it doesn't stain, it doesn't hold odors or anything like that. It is rigid to hold structure, but it's flexible enough that you can get into the one little crease that there is around the edge. And if the base of it starts to fill with a little bit of water, you can just pull the edge of it down and let the water drain into your sink. It's very functional in the design of the base of it. And then the cup drying part of it is it looks like a fluted crystal glass, but it's actually made of plastic. And the decision behind not making it glass was obviously around durability.
Mhm.
That drying component is very important, but, like, I'm throwing knives and straws and things like
Yeah.
that, spatulas in there, and so I wanted something that wasn't gonna chip and maybe have glass break off into it,
Mhm.
so, it's a PET plastic, which is the same kind of plastic that they use in food grade containers that are meant to be clean and safe. So everything from the material was meant to be safe for, humans to be around
Sure.
and utilizing, easy to maintain and recyclable. But the overall design of it, one of the things I never understood was all of these bottle drying racks are designed to look like they belong in the nursery. But the baby never touches the drying rack. This
Mhm.
is something that supports the caregiver, and
Mhm.
so the overall design of the Airess drying rack is to look like it's meant to be a part of your kitchen and an adult kitchen.
Yeah. You're not appealing to babies' tastes and drying racks?
No. No, that wasn't my target audience. The way I look at it is that as the caregivers, you're giving so much of your time and your energy and your love to taking care of the little one.
Yeah.
And having the bottles is just part of the nature that comes with that. And so having a little bit of joy by having a piece that is actually easy to work with helps you instead of like needing to be rigged to meet your needs, and then
For
also
sure.
being beautiful to look at that you're not trying to hide if like guests stop by unexpectedly were
Yeah.
very important to me. So I feel like it's designed by a real mom. It has been tried and tested in a real life home, and we've had raving reviews from our customers about just the ease of use.
Yeah, it's not only aesthetically pleasing, but it is very practical and useful for things even beyond, the baby toddler stage of life.
Yes. One of my, like, biggest frustrations as a mom, and especially having more than one kid, is the seasonal task of saying, like, "Do we still use this? Do we still need this? Can this be donated, or is this so far gone that it needs to be thrown out?" And
Mhm.
with the Airess, it truly is, I always say, from like baby bottles to bottle service, you can cover every stage of
Mm, that's
life,
clever.
and you don't have to think about it. It's a one-time investment purchase, and it can support your family and your needs for many years to come, which is also why we back it with a lifetime guarantee.
Okay, nice. So there's a warranty in some
Yes.
way. Nice.
Yes.
Just as long as it's not used out of the norm.
Yeah, yeah, like, we're not asking you to, like, drop it from the top of, like, the 10th floor of your apartment, and see how that cup holds up, but I'm pretty sure the rack and the
It
base would
might
be
hold
just
in.
fine.
Some quality stuff. So, I mean, in terms of, like, the creation of it, how did you, like what did you lean on, or who did you lean on in terms of or was it just from, like, did you do your own research and figure out ways like, to really come up with the product itself?
Yeah, so I am self-taught. I never
Yeah?
took a business class in my life.
Mhm.
I thought I wanted to be a nurse, and so my entire educational background is more, like, health and science related, and then, I just kind of took my skill set that I had picked up from all the jobs that I had done in healthcare from I did pharmaceutical sales, I did business development for a hospital, insurance consulting, practice management, kind of took all of those skills and translated once you have the skill set, it can always be
Mhm.
translated into another industry.
True.
So, I did a lot of consumption of podcasts and books and blogs and Reddit threads and you name it, all
Oh.
that free knowledge, and I found trends in some of the information that I was gathering about how to launch a product business. Would I always say this with a little nugget of wisdom that starting a service-based business is a completely different animal than starting a physical product-based
Totally
business.
different.
And so for me, I had my service-based business took off and exploded, and within 6 months, I was like, "Okay, that was easy," which was why I got the idea to, like, "Let's
Mhm.
start another one," and it's, a lot of upfront capital. It
Yeah.
is a lot of marketing. There's just a lot of other factors that come into play. So I did my best to try to identify the areas that I could have strengths in, and then the areas that I had weakness in. That's where I started to tap on some help from some experts and hired some business coaches that have a great network of people that just helped guide me in the right direction. The whole overall design of the product
Mhm.
was a napkin sketch, and I wrote down all of the things that it must do, and then I took that napkin sketch, found a designer on Fiverr, paid him $150 to make it
Really?
into a CAD drawing, took that CAD drawing to an engineer and had them perfect it so that, like, molds could actually be made from
Yeah, yeah.
that, and then, I went through Alibaba first to find manufacturers for the actual individual pieces, and the first batch of product that I got was completely wrong, and it's hard when you're starting out and you don't have a ton of capital, and these manufacturers have pretty high minimum order quantities, and having the
Yeah.
negotiation, especially as a woman, that was also a big
Another
roadblock.
obstacle.
Yeah, people didn't know, they didn't trust that I was the decision maker, so that was another
Wow.
hurdle that I had not anticipated coming through, but learned along the way how to navigate those kind of blocks. But the first batch that came through just didn't meet my standards, and my manufacturer ended up firing me as a client because he said that my standards were too high.
Really?
Yeah, which I felt was a compliment. I'm not gonna put my name on something, and I'm certainly not gonna ask
No,
somebody
right.
to give me money for something that isn't going to stand up to what I said it's going to do. So after that expensive hard lesson and a lot of
And
donated
you were
racks.
removed from being able to use that manufacturer.
Yes, which is fine.
Inter
I was connected with a manufacturing rep who just completely changed the game for me. He was
Mm,
able to have the conversations more in depth and more face to face with manufacturing team and really help me
interesting.
get the product to the level that I had expected it to be from the jump.
Wow, that you jumped through tons of hoops to get to where you are today. Sounds like you have, like, a resolve in you that allows you to continue pushing even when you hit a roadblock?
I would say yes.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that? Maybe like a more of a mindset in terms of entrepreneurial spirit, like always understanding your what you're going through, understanding when a roadblock is actually there that you should pay attention to and then divert, and some that you need to kind of push and
Yeah.
continue to push and like stay steady within yourself.
Yeah. It's funny, I'm kind of known on my social media for comparing owning a business to motherhood. A lot of the skill
Oh
set that
yeah?
I learned in my career prior to becoming a mom obviously helped with, like, creating the foundation in both of my
Yeah.
businesses, but in this product-based business in particular, skills of being able to kind of look ahead and think about where I need to be proactive or areas that I need to pivot quickly or making costly decisions and understanding what the repercussions of making those decisions are very similar to having kids and being a
Yeah.
mom. You don't know. I mean, my kids' schools called me twice today, and it's not even 2 o'clock. And it's you never know what's going to happen. And it's kind of the same in business. You don't know if your manufacturer is gonna pull through and provide the product as promised. You don't know if tariffs are suddenly going to be changing
Mm,
as you are ready to ship your product. These are all things that have happened to me. You just kind of have to have a thick skin and some grit and be willing to make decisions that you feel uncomfortable with and be uncomfortable with them comfortably, if that makes any sense. It's very much like it's a roller coaster. I think so many people think you have an idea and you start at point A and you're gonna have a straight trajectory up
yeah.
to success at point B, and it's very much like peaks and valleys, and more so, I believe, in the product space because
Yeah.
you are relying on so many other variables to help you get your vision to life.
Yeah, you need to trust your vendors, have a like, of course, you're not gonna actually build the product in your own home or whatever, so you have to find the right factory, go through that whole process, like you said. You went through that once and it didn't even he kicked you out, you know? So, yeah, there's that's just I always try to take in all the opinions from other entrepreneurs and feel how they worked through all of that and try to convey how that part is done because that's some of the hardest part about being an entrepreneur is really sorting through the difficult parts and coming out on top even if it wasn't successful in the beginning.
Totally. I think that you have to be comfortable with, failure, for one.
Mm,
But every failure, I mean, this is so hokey and cheesy to say, but it's so true. But every failure comes with such a deeper lesson. And so when you go to make a similar decision in the future, you're so much more confident in that decision. And you're so much more, it's almost like you can anticipate what the effect of that decision is going to be because of the previous failure that showed you, maybe where you should have taken
right.
a left instead of a right, at least in my experience. I think that entrepreneurs have very different brains than folks who are not. I never thought that I would be a business owner. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I thought I would be a stay-at-home mom. I didn't work for 4 months at one period of time, and I was completely miserable. I love to work. I love to have ambition and a goal to work towards, and so I think if you reflect and find that you're probably a similar way, you may have the craziness to be an entrepreneur, but I
Mhm.
think that it does take somebody who is resilient, is like, "Okay, I got punched in the gut, but I'm still in the fight," you know? You've gotta have the determination and be committed and believe in what you're building.
Absolutely. Some of the best lessons I've learned were in failure, of course, and you didn't always know that when I was younger, but you realize as time goes on that, this is all happening not for a reason, so to speak, but it's all about the timing of which it is occurring and, sitting within that thought process or that emotion and, like, realizing that it's okay to be here right now. It's okay if it's not working right now. Just try to be present in that feeling, and then you can
Mhm,
gain so much from it, and you can apply it to, anything in your life, but in business, especially as an entrepreneur, you're gonna go through peaks and valleys, like you said.
mhm,
And it's just important to accept it for what it is, not
mhm.
try to, push it away. It's about that experience and whatever it may be.
Yeah, I love what you just said. I kind of when I try to explain it to people that don't live in this type of environment, I explain it like getting caught in the undertow current in the ocean. Like you're out there swimming, having a great
Yeah.
time, the sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and all of a sudden this thing that you didn't see coming takes you out, and you can either
Mm,
battle it and you're gonna lose, or you can ride the wave and see where it brings you, and you're gonna get hurt along the way. It's gonna be uncomfortable, but you're gonna float off into a different area and feel so much more confident because you went through that struggle. I I started this business in 24, and the turns and tides that it's taken have been completely unexpected, and it's opened doors for me and brought relationships and opportunities into my life that I never would have imagined myself doing. And so there's a lot of reward in what it brings to you, but it doesn't come without a lot of weight and a lot of,
sure.
strife to get to those points, to have those opportunities open, but it's all worth it.
It's no question, it's not just a business risk or capital risk. It's also like your own personal image risk, especially this time of the world. There's no shortage of content out there. And when you take that plunge into doing something like Winnie and Lu and with the Airess drying rack, you are putting yourself out there. And it's going to require you to be the face of the company
Mhm,
and work through that process. And, it takes courage. And yeah, it's something that is difficult for entrepreneurs, I think, to work through and push out of
mhm.
because it's easier to sit in the shadows.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, if you I love adventure.
Me too.
I like to have a little bit of structure, I need it, but, like, I like to kind of, like, see where the wind takes me, and it is cool in this type of business that you don't one day you're talking to Nordstrom, the next day you're accepting an award for recognition for what you're building, and the next day you're on a podcast, and, like, then this afternoon I go pick up my kids from school. So I get to have, like, both of these worlds, and I love that I get to have my kids see what I'm building and that they get to help me, pack orders. And
That's
back
cool.
to your point about kind of exposing yourself by
Yeah.
being the face of a brand,
Mhm.
this product was invented in my kitchen. It was invented using actual products that I use every day in my life. It's now tested in my own kitchen and in
Right.
friends' kitchens, and it's still being used today. And I very much try to, especially on social, because that's really my only kind of marketing that I do at this point in time. I try to be very authentic and show, like, I'm not cleaning my countertops before I shoot some content. Like, this is the real life of my
Oh, okay.
of where we are. And so I want for people to know, hey, I can trust Winnie and Lou because this was made by somebody who's not only a mom but has worked in many different types of homes with a lot of different personalities and head counts and
Yeah.
as a former nanny.
Right.
But that I've also, like, you're seeing that this isn't like men in suits at a boardroom table making decisions about how something should be used every day in a home when they've never probably used it.
Mm.
This is truly, our tagline is "Made like a mother," and it really is made like a mother. It's strong, elegant, and resilient. It's going to stand the test of time. It's gonna support you when you need it the most, and that's kind of the ethos for all of the Winnie and Lou brand and future products that we have in mind to roll out.
Yeah, I love how you've wrapped it all into motherhood. It's really cool, and, like, your comparison of being an entrepreneur and a mother is actually strikingly similar.
It is
You have to
wild.
like, I didn't put it together. I've been raised by my own mother, and she wore both hats, and I never
Mhm.
considered it like she's just, like, basically running a business over here with this
Yeah.
family,
That is one
and
of my big messages that I try to share. I had envisioned, like I said, being a stay-at-home mom, but that wasn't what I needed. I need to have, like, a little bit more use of my own skill set
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and have something bigger and, less routine. And I think that a lot of women, especially, feel like they have a baby and they put on that motherhood hat, and then they suddenly are no longer the person that they were prior to having kids.
Mm,
And I hope that even one person, I can be an example that, yeah, you may have had this amazing career before and you're an amazing mom now. You can still apply the skill set and the things that you liked to do prior to becoming a mom to build your own thing that you own, that you get to control in terms of, like, schedule and, like, when get the work gets done, and you already have the skill set. If you're keeping your kid and you're home cranking, like, you can start a business and do the
yeah.
same thing. You just have to have the dedication and the grit and be willing
Mm.
to accept failure as lessons and not as a fault.
Yeah, because you're actually furthering your skill set in some ways as a mother
Yeah.
because of the adaptability and just the energy it's required to do it. Why do you think that is with mothers and moms that they kind of just they inherit the role as mom and stay that way?
I think there's
Like, in some
multiple
ways it's
factors.
it's nothing wrong with it, of course.
No, and I've had people ask me before, like, "So do you not support stay-at-home moms?" And I consider myself a stay-at-home mom, and I
Right.
consider myself a working mom. I do both. I am very fortunate that I have built 2 businesses that I am able to drop my kids off at school and pick them up and take them to practice and make them a meal and enjoy it with them because I control my own schedule
Mm,
because of the businesses that I have built. I think that with people entering into motherhood and feeling like they can't go, that that's now their identity. One, you undergo a crazy shift in your brain that you just
sure.
are not, you can't even explain, like, how different you come out of that. It's like you go down the biggest water slide and you're one person at the top of the slide and you're a completely different person once you hit that water. I think that people just kind of, because so much of you is needed in those early, especially that first year, it's so easy to lose sight of who you were prior to that. And the other side is I just think that, like, we're not set up to support women to do both or parents to do both because it doesn't just affect women, but even down
Sure.
to like the school day can be 8 to 3, but you need to be at work from 8 to 5. So how are you going to be at two places at
Mm,
8 o'clock and be somewhere at 3 when you need to be somewhere else till 5? So I think that it's more logistics than anything. But then the other side is I think
sure.
that it's a fear of, am I a good mom if I try to do this? Or am I gonna be able to give enough to this to make it actually
Mm,
productive or efficient or worthwhile? And yes, you're not always going to be 100% super mom and 100% super business owner, but you can have your house at, 40% and your business at 60%, and then some days it switches and it just all kind of shakes out.
maybe it's a little better balance potentially for you overall. Having, I mean, obviously, you've emphasized that having your own schedule and having your own business is really important to you.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think maybe it could add balance to more mothers potentially.
Yeah, I hope so, and I also think that, you know, we live in a time where if you wanna have a kid, but you don't have the relationship that you had anticipated having and you still wanna have a kid, having a business allows you to do both and have the flexibility, and you're not answering to 2 different bosses and your kid and your real boss, you know?
Mm,
I think that I think women need to be responsible and know their finances and be able to support themselves independent of whatever relationships that they're in. I think that it's easy, especially as we have more and more kids, that we pull some people will continue working after they have one kid, but then once childcare expenses start to add up on
yeah.
multiple kids, then they pull themselves out of the workforce and then they feel like they've lost their identity or they're not
Mm,
contributing in any way. And so I challenge people to think a little bit differently of like, okay, maybe this working environment didn't work for me, but I can go maybe be a part-time virtual assistant and use the skill sets that I used and help even the company that I used to work for as a virtual support, but that's still something that you own the
mhm,
time for. So I just encourage people to kind of like think outside the box of like, what is a job, and think about the skill set that you have and what you're able to offer and would want to offer, and then
mhm.
what your schedule needs to be and work from there. I mean, I started my first business when my kids were 8 months old. And I was coaching rowing at like a boutique
Wait, 2
rowing
years
studio.
old and 8 months. Yeah, you
Yes.
couldn't have 2 months and 8 months. Okay,
No,
sorry.
no, no. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
That's not even possible.
No. One was 2 and,
Yeah.
the other one was 8 months old, and so they were very much in diapers
Yeah.
and in bottles, and I was launching a business, and we had moved rather recently to a place where we didn't have any support, and I was coaching rowing at, like, a boutique studio, and it was important to me to figure it out, and I did it. And the same thing for now. I mean, sometimes you have to outsource things, sometimes you have to say no to things
Yeah.
that you would like to say yes to. That's just the nature of the beast. But
Mhm.
the things that are most important to me to say yes to with my husband and my kids and my dogs, I get to say yes to because of what I've created.
You've structured it that way intentionally
Mhm.
to give yourself the time and also be totally invested in what you do. It sounds like we need a bunch of mother entrepreneurs maybe, just like yourself.
I am not gonna say no to that. I think that women come up with some good ideas. I don't know if you saw the recent
I
Ford
agree.
commercial that they highlighted a vehicle that
I did.
didn't have a turn signal or windshield wipers or a rear view mirror. There was, like, 2 other things, and they said that they just removed all of the things that were invented by women in cars. And I thought that that was, like, such a great ad because, like,
Is that actually true? That's brilliant.
yeah, I
That's
thought it
cool.
was yeah, it was like, I just recently saw it. It's from I think it's about a Ford Expedition,
Yeah, we're just, like, thinking
but
about the engine, not about the other things.
yeah, and it's like the stuff that you actually see and interact with, that's the same thing with the bottle rack. Like,
Mm.
a real mom touched this so many times and hated it so much that I did something about it.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I think that's a healthy perspective, and I'm glad you've found your comfort zone, I guess, or a place in which you thrive,
Thank you.
able to, diversify your skills and still be a great mom.
Thank you.
Pretty cool. So if you were to fast forward 3 to 5 years, how do you see the business? And do you have something specific in mind in terms of growth or annual revenue or something that's on your mind?
Yeah. I mean, we've got lots of dreams cooking up in this head. I have like 7 other products,
Ooh,
conceptualized to add to the line. So again, just like when you add the first one, the next one, you still have to do all the testing and the
yeah,
tooling and the
same
drawings
process.
and all of that. By 3 years, I would love for the Airess to be like right now, the Boone Lawn is like the kind of everybody knows that that's like the bottle rack most people go with.
Oh,
Also, the one that's like the hardest to clean. And I shoot content with it a lot, not to dog on another brand, but, when you put the bottles on it, they one falls over, they all fall off, and so just trying to improve upon things that are already in existence and that can be used well beyond a single phase of life and that are
huge.
also aesthetic, that's like you have to meet those 3 things to be a product in the Winnie and Lu line.
Hmm,
So, I would like to have at least 4 of those products, so have a
nice.
total of 5 in the next 3 years, so got some work to do to get cranking, and then I would love to be in I'm already in retail, so I'm in Nordstrom and Buy Buy Baby, Bed Bath& and Beyond, Walmart and Amazon. JCPenney actually just picked us up too.
Nice.
But I would love to be, in like that Crate& and Barrel, Pottery Barn,
Mm, yeah.
Anthropologie, West Elm, Target, those types of stores,
Mm,
just to expand the retail a little bit. But ultimately, my big goal is one of my roles before I started as a business owner was managing a medical practice, and I managed an OBGYN clinic during COVID. And most of my care team were single moms. And they were looking at me having to show up as an essential worker every day while they have young kids at home whose schools closed with no one to rely on for their
oh,
childcare.
man.
And so, one of my big goals is to create a business and a brand that will support working parents so that I give you autonomy to work in the hours that are conducive to your life. You produce, you have freedom and flexibility.
Oh,
We have core hours that we work, but if you've got a sick kid and you work with your hands in our company, you can bring your kid in and we'll have a space for them and a space for you to work where you're not having to choose between coming to work or being a parent, or we'll set you up where you can work from home. Just creating a more flexible
mm,
environment that I think that parents deserve to be present with their kids if that's what they want. And I
yeah.
think that kids need their parents to be present. And so I'm grateful that I'm able to have that opportunity with my own children and to have the flexibility to be both a mom and a woman who works. And I just want to create a similar environment for people who may not have the opportunity to have that just anywhere that they go.
Yeah, it's more pressing these days for even if you, are if the husband's employed and the mother is stay-at-home mom, there's a tougher, um the financially, it's more difficult to do this, and, we're kind of sometimes forced to have both parents working just to make ends meet. So,
Mhm.
it's honorable to focus on that because it's a prevalent part of the working economy.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that our kids just want our time and attention. That's
Yeah,
it. And so even if you're only able to truly give them 20, 30 minutes of dedicated, uninterrupted time a day, you physically being present with them is a world of difference compared to maybe some other solutions. And I'm not saying that that is a bad thing. I'm just saying that if when you look at the picture of your life, if you envision yourself spending more time present at home or present with your husband or your
yeah,
wife or your children, is there a way that you can create a job that supports that?
yeah,
And I mean, to your point, I have a husband who works full time and he is
yeah,
the provider of our family right now, but I hope to take that over one day
yeah,
because also too, that's a huge responsibility for him.
mhm,
He supports me having these crazy dreams and business
right,
ideas, and he's just like, "I trust you and I know you can do it." And he doesn't really bat an eye about it. But I do recognize that that is a privilege and I'm very lucky.
sure,
And so if I can take that privilege at that stance where I'm at, that step ahead and be able to recreate it for more people, then why not try?
yeah, for sure. It's a really important role, that you're playing, I think, and
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing it progress
Thank
and
you.
more products to come
Yes.
in the near
That's the
future.
fun part. The fun part is, like, the design and, like and again, going back to, like, how it's like motherhood. I was talking to another, woman inventor yesterday, and she's like, "Yeah, my product should be here in about 3 months," and I was like, it feels like the final months of being pregnant where you're like, "I can't wait to see what it looks like. I wanna just hold it. I wanna just see it in real life,"
But
and
you
you're
have
just,
to
like,
wait.
on pins and needles wondering, like, "Is it gonna be today?" You just
Yeah,
never know, but it's
yeah.
fun. It's fun.
No, it's super fun. Maybe I'll make a product one day, but yeah, my concerns are the same as yours. Capital risk, the steps you have to go through to get to the point to where you actually see it
Yep.
also can be strenuous,
Yeah.
and that's what makes a success story all the better.
And too, like, the added, like, putting yourself out there when people
The
see
exposure, yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, and they're like,
huge.
"Oh, that's so cool," but then,
You're
if
like,
it
"Here's my
fails, then it's
product. Here you
yeah,
go."
yeah, but if it fails, what are people gonna say? And you just have to, like, let that be background noise.
But even then, like, that's just in your head, right? Like, I'm thinking about if I saw you, I didn't know you, and I saw you with a product, and then 3 years later, it didn't work, it didn't pan out, or whatever. I wouldn't look at Haley and think, "What a foolish decision she made." I'd be like, "You know what? Proud of her for even trying." Like,
Yeah.
that's really what's going on. That's what people are thinking, but we get in our own heads.
Yeah, and I think more people are thinking like, "Dang, they at least had
That's what I
the
made.
grit to go for it." And I think the people that do make you feel like you failed, if that is what happens,
That's their own
they never
issue.
would have had the grit to try, and that's where their own judgment is coming from, is
That's their
their own
something
fear limiting
within.
them from doing that. Yeah, it's just it
Even they'll come around, though, eventually.
and they'll
I
probably
really
want your
think so.
product.
Full circle moment.
Yeah. So
People
glad
are
I can
buying
help
it?
you.
Oh my gosh, I'm definitely gonna get it now. Oh, that's awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure, getting to know you, Haley, and learning
Yeah.
about Winnie Lu and the Airess drying rack and all the good stuff you're doing, for the community of mothers and, everyone out there.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my story and my brand and hopefully spark a little bit of, inspiration for somebody who may have the next great idea.
Absolutely. And is there anything that, any best way to find you online, social
Yeah,
media?
I'm on Instagram and that's usually the best place to find me at winnie.and.lu.home. Sorry. So Winnie and Lou
Nice.
Home separated out. And then our website is winnieandlou.com. And then I mentioned earlier some of the retailers, if you're out and about, that you can shop us. But
Yeah,
I'd love to have you
Nordstrom's.
come visit
I'm gonna
the
go
I
find it.
know. That one is like, I've arrived. I love Nordstrom. No, that was Nordstrom was cool because they made an exception actually for it. They typically want you to have a minimum number of SKUs, and then
Yeah,
they,
that makes
um,
sense.
they made an exception for just
Really?
the one, and then they said that we love this so much that any future
Heck
products can
yeah.
just be automatically added to the catalog. They don't even have to be repitched. So,
Then you're, like,
that
scrambling
was
immediately, "Get these things put into prototype, let's get these products
yeah.
made."
I know, I know, I know. But yeah, it was Nordstrom is like such a gold standard for
Yeah,
quality and caring for their customer.
for
And I
sure.
mean, they just align really well with what I believe in as for Winnie and Lou as well.
Nice. Yeah, it
Yeah.
must be aesthetically pleasing if it's made it to the Nordstrom store.
Yes. And equality.
Okay,
Yes.
well,
Thank you.
once again, pleasure, it's been a lot of fun, and, yeah, looking forward to the future.
Likewise.
Alright, I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Bye. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or really anywhere you get your podcasts. And maybe you can share it with someone you know that is either interested in business, interested in founder stories, kind of hearing the behind the scenes of why people do the things that they do, and just in general, good conversation. So be sure to subscribe and follow us everywhere.